Hi, this is James with Zero Authority Down. We're here today with Johnny with E8 Internet, our Element 8 Internet.
What up?
Yeah, pleasure to be here with you today. How are you doing?
Man, I'm fantastic. Just coming back from Lake Como, back in the saddle, amped to get back to work.
Awesome, man. Yeah, envious over here a little bit. Sounds
It
nice.
was it was interesting when I left for my honeymoon, it felt like the world was falling a little, but then the Luna crash happened, and then when I came back, it really was like that GIF where you come back with pizzas and the whole room's on fire. It felt a little like that.
Yeah, yeah. What's the meme? It's like, "Hey, son, are you winning?" Like,
You're like,
no.
uh-oh.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, you guys are keeping on building, so that's how
Right.
winners are made. So to kick us off here, for folks that aren't super familiar with you guys, would love to get a backstory of kind of where you guys come from, your experience, and that sort of avenue to start.
Sure, no problem. So, I'm a co-founder of Element 8 Internet. We started about 3 years ago, and my co-founder Kevin Grace previously led M&A at Rise Broadband. So we built physical networks all across the United States. He bought and integrated about 100 operations, and so that was nationwide. And then co-founded NextLink, which is now the number three largest fixed wireless ISP. So we've had our hands building physical networks for a while. And what brought us into crypto was actually when, whether it was previous work with the core Ethereum developers, the Dash community, and the Avalanche community, we've kind of seen things bubble up. And so when we've been working on crypto projects for the last 2 3 years, just bubbling it up internally. I had R&D and innovation in our group, and when we got a call from Stacks, I've been tracking it since they did their mainnet launch, even before Stacks 2.0, but there wasn't really much to do. But when 2.0 launched, it really caught our eye on our radar, and when Trevor at Stacks Ventures called, it was a no-brainer to really light the fuse on a lot of our crypto initiatives.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear that you kind of have had your eyes and you've been kind of internally building. Some of those projects are the most exciting to watch because there's so much that's kind of getting built behind the scenes. So yeah,
Yeah, I always say we're always trying to sniper shoot a little bit. So we're watching all the time. We're watching everything in the communities, whether it's Stacks, Solana, Avalanche, and some of the new stuff coming up, and just trying to get an honest assessment of the ecosystem as they go on. But it made sense when we looked at Stacks and building what we want to build for a decentralized ISP and decentralizing core internet infrastructure. Having something secured by Bitcoin is really important.
yeah, that's we hear that time and time again. Kind of the core ethos of Stacks is that. So it's nice. That's what brings a lot of folks in.
That's right.
So with all that said, I'd be interested to hear too a little bit more of your backstory, like where you come from, and
Yeah, yeah.
get to know you a little bit more. And I'm sure the folks listening would like to as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I born and raised in Dallas, Texas. Both parents are entrepreneurs. I grew up basically in a hot Texas warehouse unloading 52-foot containers, 53 foot. It's been a while. I just know they seemed endless on hot Texas days. So have kind of seen entrepreneurship from the ground up, all the flexibility of it, but also the downsides. And so I grew up that way. Went to UT Austin in the business school, and really never had a normal job. Been an entrepreneur since I was 19, I guess. And my first venture was renting out Airbnbs during South by Southwest, because at that time, and maybe even there was some times that it skipped over, but spring break and South by Southwest usually coincide. So you have a bunch of people leaving Austin, and then a bunch of people coming in. It's just the bunch of people coming in have corporate accounts. So I had friends. We were charging like $400 to $500 a night because at that time there was no hotels, And so I still remember to this day sleeping in my car because I rented out my own apartment during South by Southwest. And so kind of got that entrepreneurial itch ever since then. Um, at that time, that was like super basic, not in tech, just trying to make some, just hustling basically. Started UT Entrepreneurship Week and have always straddled this line of connectivity and community building. So before I started my first company, we started UT Entrepreneurship Week. We had about 9 different organizations at UT. So obviously you have lots of resources kind of getting competed away. And so we always had this vision of bringing it all together. But the question was, how would you do that? Because what happened at UT's campus is the same thing that happens at most campuses, which is you have like surges of like great entrepreneurial energy and not enough, no institutionalizing of it. So like you might have like 3 years where like awesome students, awesome professors, awesome like administration kind of gets behind it, and then it kind of tapers off. And so what we did between 2010 through 2014 was start UT Entrepreneurship Week. So it gathered all those resources and concentrated them into one week. Then my co-founder at the time, Nick Spiller, started Longhorn Entrepreneurship Agency that was part of student government. So now it was like entrepreneurship is a core part of UT's DNA. And then they started the Genesis Fund. So when we started seeing a lot of student-run VC funds, we said, well, we should have one of those. And so you start seeing like, even if there's ebbs and flows, you at least have the organizational structure there so that you always have that community and new energy, some vehicle for people to come to. And so that's when, as my entrepreneurship career evolved, I thought, how do I bring that sort of community building into the work that we do? I'll still go back from there. And then in 2014, I was in tech commercialization. So that means like taking intellectual property from universities and building companies around it. So we started a company called Technium. It was when I interned at Alta Ventures that we incubated Technium, which was a company to build companies. It really satiated my urge to like recruit CEOs, build teams, put decks together, fundraise, and build the first product. And since then, we've launched about 10 companies. Element 8 is one of them. And now Element 8 is taking up basically all of my time because it's the most successful one so far. And so through that period over the last decade, I've gone multiple times from 0 to 1. So literally nothing, just idea, market, pitch deck, not even a pitch deck, I created the pitch deck, recruiting CEOs, recruiting core teams. And so at that same time, always kind of investing on the side, right? And that got me into crypto and speculating. And, you know, the idea of investing in early stage technologies has always just been interesting, right? It's been closed off. And I think that's the argument people have made for almost the past decade, which is at least if you invest in tokens, you have some ability to invest in something that can grow exponentially, whether it's public market companies that have been closed off because private companies have, or private capital has made that window basically impossible for public investors. That started kind of getting me into interested in crypto. And I still remember in 2013 we had the prototypical we had one of the freshmen that was getting into the UT entrepreneurship community, and he was like, Bitcoin gonna save Venezuela, blah blah blah. And I thought to myself, if I even try to get one, this is like around the time where you're still like buying drugs and doing different things with Bitcoin. You need to like go on Craigslist and exchange USB drives. Yeah, I would have lost that USB drive for sure. So it was interesting to me, but not enough to like, I was like, I don't know how to get involved. And for what it's worth, I'm less technical enough to be dangerous, but not technical enough to go and secure Bitcoin in 2012.
Yeah, man, a lot to unpack there. But yeah, it's funny. It seems as though your background, you have quite a bit of experience of being able to analyze not only like what kind of ideas might make a startup or a company successful, but also the team required to build it out. You know, I think kind of those are two sides of the same coin in terms of when you have success. So it's always, it sounds like you have a very a tailored approach. You have a lot of experience in that, and and then you have this freshman come in talking about Bitcoin, and that's a whole other thing. But
No, I think that's the trick is even, and I guess, I mean, I'm 29, but age is so, as you bifurcate, I feel like as time goes on, like with like mobile and the internet and everything kind of changing, it feels like what used to be a generation was like 10 years. Now a generation could be like 4 years. Really, it just depends on like whether there was a blockbuster app that the other generation didn't download. So it was like, for me, it was TikTok. Like I didn't use I still don't use TikTok. And then I'm sure now beyond TikTok, there's something else that like someone that's 12 uses that I have no idea. And so even when I got into crypto, and I still just got on Discord 12 to 18 months ago, which is, that's a long time to wait to get onto Discord if you're in crypto. Um, so a lot of the times I have to just keep my ears on the ground, and I say, hey, if I got like, every time I get a chance to talk to a 15 to 20-year old, I say, just show me what like the first page of your iPhone looks like. And I'm just curious what apps you have, because I have no idea what's going on sometimes.
yeah, that's a really smart way to look at it. And like, being around people that are young will keep you young and fresh as well. And you were talking about building a community and kind of the physical sense, right? And so that's
Yeah.
something that is really valuable in kind of the crypto economies that are developing as well. So to kind of dive into E8 a little bit more when it comes to building community and identifying problems to solve, what what kind of led you to starting E8 and finding this problem that you guys are tackling?
Yeah, so with E8, the vanilla side of it is we just provide internet access to people all throughout rural America, as well as like in the suburbs. What people don't know is about 1 in 4 people in big cities don't have adequate access to the internet, or even affordable access. And so when we looked at CityCoins and looked at kind of the way they think about the economics of working with the city, what we've done previously is we can build out in suburbs. What's different though is that the economics of building an ISP in a major city is pretty challenging. In fact, the economics haven't changed for 2 decades, and we would know that because we've built a lot of them. But when CityCoins came up and what Patrick launched, we said, okay, how can we rethink what an ISP looks like? And what that starts with ultimately is you still need some different economics. So using CityCoin and giving people access via their wallet to existing public Wi-Fi networks in an easy way, it changes the game. So we'll be launching in Miami sometime this year, so that we can give students and people who have people who need to work from home, better accessible internet, as long as they have one Miami coin. And so it costs almost nothing to get Miami coin. The question now is, whether we're working with the city or Miami Foundation, can we distribute Miami coin in a super efficient way so that there's something that normal consumers every day understand what it's for, right? Because today, crypto is this thing that you own for speculation a lot of times. But if you're an everyday family that's just trying to work or send your kids to school or give them access to something, a lot of times what you find with city services is it's not about the money, it's about the thing you can give them. And internet's one of those things like food, water, and shelter that's really basic, that is proven time and time again across the globe to improve socioeconomic status. And so that's something that we want to give to citizens in Miami, citizens of Austin, New York, because it's a problem that's global. But we can start with the places that CityCoins launched.
That's awesome. And so it seems like, yeah, what you guys are going to be able to do is to create kind of an economy built on top of city coins
Mhm.
where, there's real world value that's getting provided to folks all around that city. And
Yeah, I think about it like the AOL moment. Like we're still so early. We don't have enough wallets, whether that's with Stacks, CityCoin, as well as other crypto generally. And so outside of speculation or DeFi, what other uses can everyday citizens have? And so we take this opportunity to educate everyone and also just give them a very basic, understandable use case, which is I just need to log in and get access to fast enough Wi-Fi that I can Zoom, that I can watch YouTube. Frankly, like that's people learn so much from YouTube. That's like a killer app in itself. And so making sure that's widespread across these cities is really important. And I think this represents one of the few times I think about it. I think if you're a Marvel fan, especially now with like the multiverse, I think about these timelines pre crypto and post crypto. So like we kind of fork the future. And one of the opportunities with CityCoin is we can give affordable, accessible internet to everyone in an easy way now that wasn't possible before.
Yeah, and to kind of double click on that a little bit more, when for what you guys are providing as the solution, are you guys going and putting the infrastructure in yourselves, or how is that working out?
So there are two parts. The first is we can work with existing businesses. So kind of like when you go to a Starbucks or a McDonald's, you usually have a captive portal window that says like log in, accept terms of service, whatever. You can log in and do that. And so what we can do at the grassroots level is just sign up these like big pockets or areas, whether it's small businesses, churches, or places just people congregate, and make that easily accessible to everyone that has a Miami coin, for example. And that's where you start. That's the starting layer. So you can use existing infrastructure and giving people access, easy access. Then the second part is you do have an incentive mechanism to both upgrade those systems, and we can put out new hardware to update and expand the network.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting too, because that second iteration, you're going to be focusing on very particular zip codes, like the city structure itself, right? First and foremost. So I
Exactly.
could see in the future you might have like 100% coverage throughout like a city that has
Exactly.
points. Yeah.
Yeah, you just want to start street by street, and it really goes to back to the layers. Like as long as you're affecting one person and it works in this city, that's just how it works. And at least in the internet and physical network space, if you can make it work in probably a city block that's the hardest hit by socioeconomic terms, you can make it work all across the globe, actually.
Yeah, yeah. And I could see, like you were saying, providing internet to people of all walks of life, and they all have access to that, how that could be such an improvement to a city and the people of the city in the future. And the city coins, it has a proponent of this kind of civic good. And I think something like this just kind of jives really well with that.
Yeah, Patrick's mentioned that the entire mission of CityCoin is to improve state capacity. What that means typically, at least from what we've seen, is not necessarily like you obviously want to improve the balance sheet of the city, but state capacity can be what can they provide to citizens that they couldn't before. And so when we think about who supports city coins and who wants to give more to their citizens, it's not just raw dollars. Like there's probably untold opportunities that are available to people once they don't have to worry about internet, when they don't have to worry about water and food. Like we just know that we don't need like tons of scientific. There are a lot of scientific studies to show that, but I think we just know that intuitively when people have um, both food security, utility security, and then internet, they can. And we live in one of the most enterprising countries in the world. People will pick up themselves, find jobs, find opportunities, as long as they have the resources available to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's going to be really impactful for what you guys are doing to those cities. And so to dive into a little bit into the future, what people that might be living in the city of Miami, what's kind of the user flow of what they might expect here in the coming year of how to use E8?
Yeah. So in the coming year, we'll have different neighborhoods. There'll be about 5+ neighborhoods in the city. Could be Little Haiti or Little Havana. And it'll be like in Wynwood. And so what it'll look like is we will have some onboarding where they can say, hey, sign up for this wallet. We'll just distribute or send you a Miami coin. And as long as they have that in their wallet, when they come into any building that's in the network, it'll have a pop-up that just says connect their wallet. And as they connect their wallet, they will be logged into wherever their that network's available. So whether that's like offloading their data traffic if they have like a capped mobile plan, We also have some mobile hotspot um, availability that we're working on, but we'll see where that goes. We have the ability outside of just those core um, fixed locations to actually make that more available. So as people are on the go or they need connectivity in places they weren't expecting, they'll still also have that access to the network.
Yeah, yeah, that's really valuable too. And in terms of scaling those, kind of working on that, I could see smaller cities and towns be able to benefit from that in the future. I'm looking out very far in the future, seeing E8 and
Oh yeah.
every jurisdiction I drive through. So
Yeah, the trick actually is, and this is something that we talk about in internet infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and less so in crypto, is the convergence. So whether people talk about 5G or satellite internet with like Starlink and everything else, is there's so much demand for connectivity, and you actually have a convergence um, of what's available. That's actually possible. So say like 5 years ago, making that available was not that easy. And I think, I don't know if you remember the early days of cell phones, but you could end up in a spot where it was like rural or anywhere, and you'd be roaming, and that's like not a great user experience. You could be charged more, and I think the thing we're moving toward is just, if you are an Element 8 subscriber, you should have mobile connectivity. You should have connectivity wherever you are. It should be like water, available to flow and universal. So that UI should be, well, you shouldn't have to think about it basically. It's weird to me that we have to think about it at all. When traveling through Europe, it was a good example where I'm like, okay, I gotta go city to city. Um, it was not super frictionless, but we want to move toward a place where it's frictionless and available everywhere.
yeah, yeah, and especially so, kind of diving back to crypto a little bit. A lot of people are picturing crypto to be kind of this foundational layer of this new economy that might be developing, and for that to kind of merge with the real world, we have to have the infrastructure for that to happen, right? So it's
Yeah, I
kind of
think
interesting. Oh, go
just
ahead.
to double click on that, one thing we think about it, and the reason we're in the community, is because I think what people hear about is like, whether it's Ethereum or other layer ones, is what are the vulnerabilities, and the vulnerabilities are their EVM architecture, meaning that they're hosted on centralized cloud data centers. They're hosted in places where, as an ISP, we know that if we wanted to block traffic, we could. And so um, there's still core vulnerabilities in crypto generally, until you start thinking about, like, a lot of times there's architecture charts and white papers that say like, we're decentralizing connectivity, and then it just points to the internet as like a word, and there's no, but in reality that's fiber, that's towers, that's data centers, it's internet exchanges. And so a lot of our work, we start at customer access and authentication. That's like the user experience. But over time, on a long enough time scale, we're talking about how do we decentralize the internet infrastructure so that we as a society, as a global society, have more control over that, so that you can't have, you're more censorship resistant. You can't have governments just shut down your traffic, which is very possible today. If you get subpoenaed or anything else like that, or an order from the government, we want to move toward a world where all that internet infrastructure is owned by the people.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's incredibly valuable. There's a lot of kind of older time folks that are like, the internet. They're going, oh man, the internet it does seem like this great thing, but it seems they're very apprehensive to trusting it completely. And I'm starting to see that
Yeah,
a lot more with the younger generation too. It's that they have that
yeah.
inclination. So to build out infrastructure at the core level of what our kind of future is going to be built on, and that's going to be becoming more decentralized over time. I see a lot of value in that.
Yeah, I think of like the two layers of that. They're always kind of in friction, right? Like whether we're in like running a Bitcoin node, like you want to run your own node, but you really don't. Like, so it's always balancing that like security versus user experience level that we're at least internally, we're always trying to work through. So like example would be the UI to get authenticated in this implementation for Miami citizens is as super simple as possible. Does it move us all the way to truly decentralized internet infrastructure? Not completely yet. Um, but ultimately what I've learned is I actually want to give people the cloud experience. I don't want everyone running their own node, at least themselves per se, because I think that's really challenging. But how do you balance that so you get decentralized enough that you have true security, but also a consumer experience that doesn't want to make people blow their heads off or get them really frustrated.
Yeah, yeah. We always say too, decentralization, it's a scale, it's not a true or false, right? So it's something you
Exactly.
can always aim to be more decentralized in the future.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So in terms of, you guys are very much so going to become or are becoming right now a Web3 business. Do you see the anything different from building in Web3 versus how, Web2 might try and attack this solution?
Yeah, I think it's very different in the sense of how we think about creating our own economy and our own community. In Web 2, we almost start with what can we own, what can we build? We have controls over the timeline. Whereas in Web 3, we're thinking about how we're basically building an entire world economy. So what are the incentive structures? And it's not an economy just for the people and the participants, it's an economy for the machines as well. And so we have to think very very hard about the decisions we make. So an example is we're working through our white paper right now, and it's okay, what are the incentive structures? Where are the governance structures? What's tried and true and tested and what's worth experimenting on? Um, and I think that in itself is an entire exercise that we would not do. Like the example is we have our Web2 core internet business. We're going to expand nationally, and that takes a lot less brain power, frankly. But I think the impact and the TAM, even in internet as an ISP, the TAM is like I think about 120 billion, maybe it's 500 billion. The TAM on a true decentralized internet infrastructure is similar to cloud, near limitless. And so thinking very, very simply, kind of elegantly, but also in a thorough manner about what we're going to build in Web3 is a challenge. It's a good mental exercise, but we're very very thoughtful about it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think in a lot of cases, this hasn't been done before, so there's no guidebook on the right or wrong way to do it, right? So
That if I've learned one thing, that's the trick with Web3 is there are many more. And even when I viewed it, I view every token, every ecosystem almost like a live experiment, which is what I actually appreciate about crypto. Is like there's so many experiments going on. So that part of unleashing innovation is like really powerful. The challenge is, are you one of the experiments that failed or succeeded? And so as we talk through with other founders, it's really exciting to say, hey, what are the best practices? And the answer is we're the best practices. We're the ones building and experimenting and trying from the ground up, and we just got to learn as we go.
yeah, yeah. And it's kind of to swing into a little bit more of working in the accelerator. How has that been? Have you been able to bounce ideas off of other founders there? Get some camaraderie and some
Oh
friendships
yeah.
along the way?
Yeah, what people here don't know is Trevor was my first boss actually when I interned with him in his previous life, and so it's been awesome to get a chance to work with him full force. The Stacks Ventures team and the community, they're never short of introductions. They have people who are fully aligned, bought into the mission, both of Stacks, CityCoins, and the things built around it, and so it's been a powerful resource for us to reach out to basically anyone. It's both the stamp of approval because the team at Stacks Ventures understands very deeply what's needed in the ecosystem, especially as Stacks is maturing itself and in a way competing against other L1s. That every person that they add to the roster is in its own right building the culture of Stacks. And so whether it's this interview with you, the work that we're doing, it's been actually a very fun adventure to be part of cohort 2 and kind of see how thoughtful they've been across cohort 1 and talking to those operators and learning who's legit, who's investing during a downturn. That's like last week we were doing a founder kind of a founder mastermind with each other, and just learning who's actively investing, who's not. There's like, you're always trying to parse news from websites, from tweets, from actual investments and actions. So that's been number one, is getting the most recent information from the people on the ground.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But being able to work together to find the signal through the noise, that sounds really valuable. And for
Yeah, it's invaluable. Yeah, no, I mean, you can waste a lot of cycles as an operator, chasing a lot of rabbit holes, not understanding what yes or no actually looks like. And so they've helped a lot with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And for folks that are maybe just listening to this and they're still working on their business model, maybe they want to join cohort 3 in the future, what kind of advice would you have for them?
Get understand what belongs in Web3 and what doesn't, because we'll see a lot of permutations of things that you're just trying to stitch together. Come ready and excited. Be ready to pitch for sure. And I think more than anything, just understand the ecosystem that you're entering, because Stacks is pretty different in a good way compared to some of the other communities. And so Stacks and does a good job of recruiting people who believe in the core ethos. So as long as you believe in building for the long term, as well as building something that is inherently secure and benefits society, I think it's a little bit different. For me, what's always stood out is the builders come to this community more so than pure speculators. And that's really important to me.
Yeah, yeah. I always say that Stacks is a land full of builders, so it's going to be really exciting to see the cityscapes that everyone's going to be able to build.
That's right.
But yeah, yeah. With all that said, for the audience that's listening in the future, where can they go to find out more about E8 and you, and what kind of updates maybe should they be looking for here in the future?
Sure. Yeah, so we have a private Discord, but if you want to look up for when you can sign up directly, you can go to e8internet.com/stacks. And we're a little stealth mode right now. So if you want to, you can ask me for an invite at jvan@e8internet.com. Reach out to me anytime. I'm open to having any discussions with people who are interested in building a decentralized ISP. We have a big vision and we're going to need a lot of help too. So happy to always riff.
Awesome, awesome. And yeah, in conclusion, anything else you want to share with the audience before we get going? Or
Yeah, just if you believe in decentralized infrastructure and how important that is, reach out to me, because I think it's one of those conversations that Munib and other stakeholders talk about pretty often, but goes untouched. When we talk about, like, DeFi is easy to talk about, NFTs are easy to talk about, they're relatively consumer friendly. But if you're someone who cares about internet security, core digital infrastructure, please talk to me. We want to be a magnet and a place for the talent that wants to work on that big vision.
awesome, awesome. Yeah, no, that's really great to hear. And for those tuning in, you seem like a really exceptional guy, and you have a great history, and you really know how to identify good startups to build, and it seems like
Yeah,
a
one
great person to work for. So.
note for any talent, we just as a rule, we don't look at pedigree very often. So whether you have great logos or whatever, it's not important for us. It's what do you deliver, to you deliver it with. And I think in the crypto space, that's pretty much that's a given, I hope. But I think as what people would call like Web2 companies being in Web3, it's important for us where we look at like work ethic, ability to deliver, and leadership. That's very different than what you might expect at the traditional big tech codes.